Hi everyone, this is Tim, and I'm here to talk about Sebastian Dieterding's three elements of getting games right. And those elements are mastery, meaning, and autonomy. And what I'm going to talk to you about in this video is meaning. First of all, we totally have to credit Sebastian Dieterding's work here. I was fortunate enough to sit in his setting or his workshop last year and had a chance to meet actually a few of you who were in our workshop this year there. And Sebastian's actually going to be attending this conference, GLS as well, again this year. So please, I defer to his knowledge and his wisdom with this. But it is a very useful structure when creating gameful learning environments in your classrooms. So I wanted to talk to you first about meaning. And I'll have a link to Sebastian's page on our page here. But this is Coding Conduct. This is his website. And if you click on the Meaningful Play link, which is, well, here's what it looks like here when you've clicked on it. It leads to a Google Tech Talk that he gave from 2 years ago. And there is a really great slideshow that goes along with it too. So this is great. This is definitely worth the 49 minutes of your time to check out. Just really, there's just a lot of treasures in here to explore. A lot of resources. We want to talk about meaning in games. And one of the things that has really helped me in designing some of the gameful experiences that I have is to focus on meaning, to make sure that it has, for my students as players, meaning to them. So what do we mean by when we say meaning? Well, Sebastian says that gameful learning situations or gamified applications or gamification learning environments, however you want to call it, they have to connect to something that's already meaningful to the user, or they have to wrap themselves in a story that makes them meaningful. So what I'm going to show you here is one of how I interpreted this into some of the games and some of the gameful experiences that I've created for my students. So MatterQuest. How was MatterQuest meaningful to my students? Well, there's a couple different ways. I think the first and most obvious one is the fact that I play a character called Creepor. And Creepor, as you can see right here, is me with a piece of fabric over my head, kind of talking like Strong Bad from the Homestar Runner series, if you've ever seen those. That was kind of the inspiration from that. You can also see a little bit of Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars in there too, but basically, yeah, this is just me playing, improvising. And I think that's a really, really key way to strike meaning with your students is that when you're creating something and if you are playing along with them, that right there hooks your students. That right there gives meaning to what it is that you're creating. So let's take a look at Creepor here. And this is me as Creepor. I've hit a point where we've kind of run out of time for MatterQuest in our unit. This is almost like a 2.5, 3-month unit. And invariably, we always run out of time. So we jigsaw out the last few levels, and we kind of have them all, each group take a level and then come back together and report out. So it's kind of like we jigsaw out the last few labs, and it works out pretty well. But here I am explaining what we're going to do to the students.
So I'm back again. I have a new message for you. I see that you've been working pretty hard on your MatterQuest. This pleases me. However, you're not completing your work in a timely enough fashion.
So okay, there we go. You get a little taste of Creepor, get a little taste of me as the improv teacher. And it literally was an improv moment in creating that. There was, I walked into the classroom, actually I walked out of the classroom, I grabbed the robe in the teacher's lounge, put it on, and had literally no idea what I was going to say. So I walked in the room, made it up on the spot. Tina Fey says that in order for improv to work, you have to have willing partners. And in this case, as a classroom teacher, I had some willing partners with my students. They agreed, yes, they agreed that they would go along with this. Well, The bad news was that I kept that robe in a bag in the teacher's lounge, and one of the teachers thought it was trash and got thrown out. So Creepor's in-class appearances were cut down, and instead he would beam video messages in from the Galactic Core. So a little revision there that had to be made with the loss of the costume. Um, what else are we doing here with Meeting? Well, the storyline is one thing. The teacher dressing up, the improv is part of it as well. But embedded in the game as well, I think, are in the levels here. Here we have passwords. Okay, so we've got some meaningful connections to video games, other games that they're playing. We add that in, and oop, that one doesn't have a blank or a riddle, so let's check this one out. So we enter the password, and now we have also within here a riddle. So we have a riddle, part of Creepor's message. The answer to the riddle in every level leads up to a larger message from Creepor, which is the end game of all of this. Is why is Creepor sending these messages? So that tied into and connected to hopefully some meaningful labs and meaningful learning experiences within the levels is a kind of a parallel set of meanings or parallel meaningfulness of this storyline. And then the final, I think, part of Matter Quest, which makes it meaningful, would be the promise of an ending or a conclusion to this storyline. So they're not just going through the levels and going through the lab work and the schoolwork of it, but that there's also a sense of a payoff at the end. What is Creeport doing? What is he up to? What's his end game? So that too, hopefully, is motivating and a motivating aspect of this game. So that was Matter Quest. How did it play out in some of the other games that I've been working on with my students? Well, another game that I've been working on is called Intergalactic Jury. So I want to talk about the next game that I worked on, and that was called Intergalactic Jury. I co-created this with Anthony Mori, our building principal at Wealthy Elementary School. It's very inquiry-based, and it's kind of a debatable whether you'd call it a simulation or a game. It's kind of like public speaking and debate with a twist to it. So we had each class of 24 students was broken up into 6 groups of 4. Each group of 4 was kind of interest-based put together. So all of the group members completed a survey, or actually the whole class completed a survey to figure out what are you interested in most studying? What do you want to study the most related to space and space exploration? And based on that, I was able to craft interest-based groups through the surveys that they created. Maybe not socially based groups or gender-based groups, but I really want to keep this interest-based. And a lot of interests included black holes. They included asteroid shields, light speed travel or beyond light speed travel, Mars colonization, moon colonization. Very similar themes have appeared in all 3 classes. And students then presented a proposal, and this proposal was to be given to NASA. Okay, so in trying to construct meaning here, I rather than just say I want you to do research projects on these things, we created some constraints for them. They were presenting to NASA. I appeared as Carl Sagan. I had an outfit. I dressed as Carl. I wore the turtleneck. I wore the smock, or the sport coat, the brown sport coat. Talked like him, and I hosted this event. Now the students came up and spoke as if they were speaking to a jury of their peers in the scientific community, and they made their proposal stating why we should visit black holes or study black holes, or why we should have an asteroid shield, or why we should colonize Mars or the moon. And the students then who were listening, actually every student in the class had one vote. They could only vote for one project or one proposal that they wanted to see get the blank check from NASA. And they also could not vote for themselves because they didn't want to have a giant 6-way tie. So they all had to vote for another group other than their own. And in addition to having just the public speaking aspect of making the proposal, we had the kind of the debate twist as well. So not only were groups responsible for creating a proposal for something that they wanted, but they were also responsible for making a counter proposal or arguing against another specific group. So we paired all the groups up so that one would be speaking for something and then the same group would be speaking out against another group by knocking holes in their opinion. We had some crossover time where they were allowed to share their presentations with each other. We didn't allow for any type of hidden evidence or anything like that. We had an evidence exchange so they knew exactly what each other would be talking about. So once a group presented, they had about 5 to 10 minutes to present. The rebuttal group had 3 to 5 minutes to rebut what they had to say. And then we had a day of kind of polishing and listening to what the other group said, and then they had a final word the last day where then every group voted for, or every jury member voted for what they wanted to see happen, so, or which group they wanted to see receive the blank check. Along the way, the students also were able to kind of have a fantasy draft where they were able to select astronomers to use as expert witnesses. So they actually got to involve themselves in some of the role playing in this as well. So this is, in Matter Quest, just I was the only person playing a character. But in Intergalactic Jury, I was playing a character and the students all played characters themselves. Here is a photo of Deborah Fisher, who's an extrasolar planet researcher, and 2 of my students emailed her. And she took the time to respond to them, which was fantastic. I mean, you talk about a really motivating event for the kids. Holy cow, to email your fantasy astronomer and hear back it was terrific. And that's kind of what I looked like when I was dressed as Carl, except I was pre-beard. So here's the rules again for that. Now, the meaning from this, again, is teacher improv, student improv. We have a very, very dramatic, user-controlled conclusion. It all ends with one final vote, and that's it, which is great. High stakes, kids loved it, they handled it well. They didn't get too overboard with the competition, and feelings weren't hurt. And usually in each class is pretty evident, although we had one class where we had a couple of vote-offs, which was great. And hopefully, too, the premise was meaningful for them as well, which in viewing the interest-based, inquiry-based method forming the groups, hopefully that pulled something together for them as well. My final game that I want to talk about in terms of meaning is Reality, which was a game that I skinned from Reality, which was created at USC by Simon Wiscombe, Tracy Fulton, and Jeff Watson. This really truly is this insanely fun thing to do. I use it for our video club, but I mean you could use it in anything. You could use it in language arts, you could use it in history. But let's talk about the meaning of it. We won't talk so much about the game itself. Let's talk about the meaning for it. And how is this game meaningful? Well, what we have here are these cards. And as you see here, we've got a mirror world, we've got a transmedia franchise, Feel Smooth. So we have a actual physical cards. So we're not doing it on a wiki, we're not doing it online. It's just printed tagboard paper. And on each card is a serious set of points. So every time the card's used, the students get those points. We have a live leaderboard. We have that on our video club's webpage. So if you see here, here's our current leaderboard right now for our students in video club, and Will's in the lead with 205 points, and Caroline's kind of nipping at his heels there. She actually has a couple videos in the pipeline, so she might catch and pass Will, but Will's got one he's working on as well, so that's been meaningful. And also, we have, they're making videos. I mean, they are making media projects. They're doing things, working together in groups. They form their own groups. They already have an interest in the subject. and it's an after-school club too. So again, this is not a in-class project, but it is something that can be very easily adapted, I think, to any type of subject matter. So hopefully this little chat on meaning is useful to you when you're crafting your gameful experiences, and maybe looking back at some of the gameful experiences that you've engaged in as well. I know that when I first did Matter Quest and was dressed up as Creepor, that I was I know that when I finished and was talking with the students, that there was a um, hunger for them for more Creepor. They liked that. They wanted more of it. And so this year, I set out to make more videos. I just added the riddles. I added the game, the puzzles, added the messages from Creepor. I wanted to pump up that storyline a bit more, and it was very clear in the students' interest in what they were doing, and in the assessments as well. Our assessments this year were crazy compared to the assessments last year, which were crazy to begin with. Um, and that's truly, and that's really the point, right? Is to make sure that the students are learning as much as they can and having meaningful learning experiences as well. So this is my overly long talk about meaning and how that element of gameful design from Sebastian Dieterding has played out within 3 of the games that I've crafted for my classroom. Thanks.